tuberculosis is an infectious disease that mainly affects cattle. It is similar to tuberculosis that affects humans, in that it is caused by a bacterium. Bovine TB can be passed from infected animals to humans through close contact and ingestion of unpasteurised milk and meat from infected animals. When bovine TB affects humans, it can lead to a serious, if not fatal, disease. Statistics from DEFRA state that 301,521 cows have been culled in England since 2008 as a result of bovine TB. In the last 20 years, the number of cattle slaughtered due to TB has increased by fourfold from the original number of cull animals. The emotional and economic impact of this disease is huge. Once a farm has a positive TB reactor, they are placed into a temporary lockdown timeframe of 120 days, where they cannot move cattle in or out of the farm. They then have to undertake further TB tests until they are provided 2 clear tests. Meanwhile, the farmer will feel a knock-on effect as they are unable to operate their business normally, threatening any of their future planning. Many farmers will suffer financial impacts to their businesses, including a reduction in sales of beef and milk as a result of culled animals, increased labour and extra costs of feed and bedding as they have to keep their animals for longer. Some farmers have become so weary and frustrated by repeated bovine TB outbreaks that they have decided to go out of beef and dairy production altogether. There has been a 6-fold increase in the number of cattle slaughtered because of TB in the last 20 years. According to DEFRA statistics, in 1998, there were 5,000 cows slaughtered due to bovine TB in England. In 2017, 33,236 cattle were killed. The farmer is paid compensation by DEFRA, but the compensation paid doesn't often reflect the true value of the animal. DEFRA receives the price of the carcass at the abattoir in an attempt to offset some of the cost of compensation. If a heifer is lost, there is no compensation for loss of future calves, as well as no compensation for loss of future milk in the dairy herd. One dairy farm was said to have lost £56,364 in milk sales through the culling of 61 animals. With regard to food safety, cattle slaughtered by DEFRA have tested positive for bovine TB, are allowed into the food chain provided they do not show tuberculosis lesions in more than one organ or body part. If they do, however, then the whole carcass will be declared unfit for human consumption and is discarded. Farmers which can no longer sell their animals for meat due to TB will cause disruption in the market and result in changes of policy by retailers. The main source of human infection is through the drinking of unpasteurised milk. DEFRA applies strict guidelines for processing meat from animals which have tested positive for bovine TB. These EU-wide regulations are based upon internationally agreed guidelines and are the same as those followed by many countries around the world, including Ireland, where most of the beef in the UK is butchered. The Food Standards Agency rigorously inspects the process and ensures these products are fit for consumption. There have been no documented cases where a person has caught bovine TB through eating meat, and careful safeguards have surrounded the slaughtering and supply of meat to the food chain. The European Food Safety Authority has described the threat of transmission through meat products as negligible, and DEFRA has categorised reports in the past that humans could be at risk of contracting TB from eating meat as irresponsible scaremongering, and quality is not affected. Across Britain, only 0.5 to 1% of human TB cases, which is fewer than 40 people a year, are related to Mycobacterium bovis. The majority of these cases occur in people over the age of 45, and according to the NHS, are usually reoccurrences of decades-old infections contracted before milk pasteurisation and milk inspection were common in the UK. However, if consumers were to become ill from contaminated meat that was not thoroughly inspected, this would cause a chain reaction within the market. The impact would begin in the abattoir in which cattle would be slaughtered. There would be a posed risk that the infected animal could transmit and contaminate the whole abattoir, stopping the meat to go off for human consumption. Once contaminated meat has been slaughtered and is mistakenly past fit for human consumption, it is then sent off to the manufacturers and processors. Past this point, the food is available to all consumers, being sold in supermarkets, etc. Consumers who eat the contaminated meat pose a serious health risk to the NHS. This will in return cause a large monetary strain on the government. Once it has been clarified that the meat has been consumed and is infected, demand will drop significantly, causing strain on farmers as they are unable to sell their supply. It will not just be the food chain that will be affected by this. This disease situation has the potential to affect everyone, from those living in rural areas seeing the impact on farming neighbours firsthand, to people who enjoy Great British and dairy products and want to see a thriving sector. Everyone will be paying for the cost of bovine TB via the public purse, with costs set to rise to $1 billion in the next 10 years unless action is taken. There is also the potential for bovine TB to spill over into other species. Unless bovine TB is reduced in the environment, it is likely that these cases will not continue to increase as the disease is forced to find new hosts. A recent government report is highly critical to both farmers and ministers, stating badgers are not only to blame for TB crisis. It concluded that poor use of measures such as secure fencing to prevent TB transmission on farms is severely hampering disease control measures. In October 2017, the TB Advisory Service was launched by the government for cattle farmers in the areas of England deemed at high risk. On the edge of disease, the service aims to help maximise farm biosecurity and minimise the risk associated with cattle movements, with eligible farmers receiving an on-farm visit from an advisor at no cost. A telephone advice service is also available. When an animal disease outbreak occurs within the food chain, it is vital that all different sectors work together to find the source and eliminate the disease from going any further.